I wanted to start with actually a poem I didn't write. It's a poem by a San Francisco poet called Daphne Gottlieb. It's a short poem. It's called Bikini Killer. At 4, it's already clear that Mimi's going to grow up to be one of those ladies her mama calls a fame for tall. One of those cigarette-swilling heartbreakers who strides in and get things going like a party or a murder. Mimi's got those 4-year-old high heels on, those coffee can romper stompers strapped to her feet with the ribbon laces that match her bathing suit. The ants scramble out of the guillotine clank of her walk as she shaclanks her way up and down the sidewalk, slicing worms in half with a single-minded step. The art of the crush makes her the terror of the insect world. But she's the darling of every dog on the block. Want her like nothing, can't take their eyes off her, drool for her, whine to the shine of her step, nose to her like fresh bones. No one's seen anything like it. The dogs won't leave her side, jostle each other for her attention, and skulk home when she goes in to dinner. She's born to break hearts, and like any good minx, she's got her secrets. Cherry Kool-Aid makes her lips red. Please gets her what she wants. And she never gives up the leftover meatloaf she hid in her bikini bottoms. I've been working on a poem that I was hoping to have ready tonight, but I'm not ready for it to. I'm not ready to read it in public yet. So right. So maybe next time. But what I decided to do was read a very short story that I wrote. One of my favorite short story writers is Shirley Jackson. So I don't know. I don't know why, but I sort of had her in mind when I sort of wrote this. It's called Iggy. Sarah burst into the house with her usual cheery, "I'm here." The pungent scent of urine immediately assaulted her nose. "Phew, this place reeks, Michael. When was the last time you changed Shelley's box?" From the living room came Michael's unaffected reply, "A month ago." "Jesus, Michael, a month ago? Are you crazy?" She laid the groceries down and followed his voice. The blinds were closed, and the only light came from the muted television. He was sitting in the recliner. The upholstery was ripe and beginning to bulge. She clicked on the table lamp. He winced. "I've been told not to." "Why?" There was a ghostly silence. "I'm not sure. Toxins, probably. He didn't say." "Michael," she gave a frustrated sigh, "unless you're pregnant, I wouldn't worry about it." Shelley circled Sarah's legs, looking up at her with imploring feline eyes. She turned towards the bathroom. "This is ridiculous. I'll do it." Michael bolted from his chair and sprinted towards her in panic. "No, Sarah, don't." "Will you please stop? You think touching the litter is dangerous? Just think of what you're breathing in. How can you live like this?" "Please, Sarah, don't. I ask every day, but Iggy says no. Soon it will change," he said, calm, trying to return to his voice. "It will change." Michael rescued Iggy from the gutter 2 years ago at a time in his life when things were falling apart. It was refreshing to seek Iggy's quick answers rather than the babble most offered for advice. He never asked questions like the others. Michael didn't begin relying on Iggy's advisement until, as he called it, the Sharon Incident. Michael met Sharon where he worked as an order entry operator. She had a reputation for being accommodating to men. The first 3 times he asked her to dinner, she said no, making up some excuse about visiting a sick relative or balancing her checkbook. But on the 4th try, she gave in to the loner in the hope that this one date would put an end to his pestering. Iggy told Michael not to go, but he went anyway. At the end of the evening, he asked Sharon for a kiss goodnight. She laughed, called him a loser, and told her to leave him alone. As Iggy had predicted, the date turned out to be disastrous. This was the breaking point for Michael, and from here on in, he trusted no one but Iggy. At his insistence, Michael quit his job, and he no longer left his home. Sarah is his only connection to the outside world. She pays a weekly visit to bring groceries and lets herself in with the spare key under the mat. She's been concerned with the unnatural hold Iggy has on him. I'm here. There was no response from Michael. Shelley greeted Sarah with a figure eight around her ankles. She went into the kitchen with a new load of groceries, only to find the bag she had brought over a week ago hadn't even been touched. Oil stains from the melted butter were creeping up the brown bag, and she could smell the milk spoiling. She found Michael asleep in front of the muted television. He was wrapped in his favorite robe. It was hooded, and the length brushed his ankles. In happier times, he would shuffle around the apartment chanting, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." This always sent Sarah into spasms of laughter. The man asleep before her now was far from the robust person she had met 5 years ago. He looked gaunt. His shocking blue eyes were ringed with dark circles, and his cheeks were hollowing. She could smell that he hadn't bathed in some time. She tapped him gently on the shoulder. Michael's eyes darted open with a start. "Oh, it's you. Is everything okay?" she asked, brushing a wisp of chestnut hair out of his eyes. He looked up at her and offered a strained smile. "When was the last time you had anything to eat?" I don't remember." "You look terrible. Let me fix you something." He grabbed the recliner's arm and jolted up. His eyes burst in fear. "No!" "Calm down," she said, easing him back into his chair. "Why haven't you eaten?" "Iggy won't let me." He looked at his lap. "Okay, Michael." She folded her arms across her ample chest. "Where is that prick? I think it's about time we meet." "He's in the other room, but leave him alone." "Michael, this has gone on too far." "Sarah, please," he begged. "Please, Sarah, let me take care of this myself." "You've said this before, Michael, but things have only gotten worse. Nothing has changed." "It will." "Promise me that you'll eat something no matter what he says." Michael was silent. "Michael," her voice was showing impatience. He slowly turned towards her. "Promise me," she said, concern slipping through her voice. "Yeah," he sighed, unable to meet her eyes. She cupped his chin in her hands and brought his face up to meet hers. "Yeah, what?" "Yeah," he reluctantly said. "I promise. I'll eat something." "You better. I've left some groceries in the kitchen. Make sure you put them away before you go to bed." Michael grunted. She released his chin. "Forget it. I'll do it," she said, walking toward the kitchen. "I don't know why you trust him, Michael. He's caused you nothing but grief since you met him." "Yeah, well," Michael knew she was right. It had snowed the night before. This morning, Iggy made him cancel the newspaper delivery. His last issue was on the walkway, despite the extra $5 he paid the carrier to push it through the door slot, and it was beginning to cover with snow. He had asked if he could go out and get it, and to his surprise, Iggy said yes, and he only had to ask once. He opened the door with his free hand. The rush of cold air pinched his face. He walked onto the porch and slowly looked around like a newborn. He took 1 step down, 2 steps, 3. The new snow crinkled under his slippers. 4. He tiptoed down the walk, scooped up the newspaper, and began shuffling back when he saw the door creeping closed. He rushed to the porch, but it was too late. The door had closed. "Iggy, may I please open the door?" he choked. The wind was ripping through his nightshirt. The only sound was the stretching of the old oak's branches. It took a few moments for Iggy to reply, "Don't count on it." Michael waited a few minutes before asking again. "Iggy, please, I'm cold." The wind blew harder, and Michael's pleas became louder. The snow lasted a week, and it was another 3 days before the road to Michael's secluded house was clear. Sarah stopped her car at the end of the driveway, the motor still purring, and got out to pick up the week's worth of mail. The usual advertisements, bills, and magazines. She hustled back to the car and drove the winding distance up to his driveway. Her tires were the first to brand the snow. Sarah made her way through the thick snow and onto the porch. The spare key dangled from the lock. There was a large snowdrift next to the door. She moved in for a closer look. A vacant face stared back at her. The frosty marble eyes looked resigned to a long battle with fear. The tightly closed mouth resembled candy wax lips, only blue. It was Michael. Sarah screamed and covered her mouth. His hands lay outside the snow, and protectively cupped inside was an ordinary novelty Magic 8-ball. The deadening black plastic was freckled with frost. The number 8 was rubbed away from overuse, and written in its place in white paint was Iggy. She pried the ball from Michael's hands with a crisp snap and turned it over. Frozen in its mystic blue blood lay the answer to Michael's last question. Concentrate and ask again.